Hi guys, Mrs. Joseph here, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about some other brainstorming techniques for your narrative writing. On Friday, hopefully, you maybe thought a little bit about a technique that you could use that you learned from the author of your book club book, and you're going to try and incorporate that into a new story. And I gave you some prompts to use for that. We can look over that again later. But I want to, some people it took a while to get started. It's hard. I understand that. So grab your grit and let's see if anything I show you here today might help you get you a little further into that story. So one thing is maybe just Google search a simple story map. And I'm not saying you have to print this out and fill in all the boxes, although you could. But maybe start thinking about your characters and your setting and know your beginning, middle, and end before you even start writing the story. Know how it's going to end, know how it's going to be solved. Think about the theme a little bit before you start writing your story. Even published writers do this type of work. I doubt they print out a story map, but I know they think through their story before they get it written. You could even do, this is a very detailed story map, but it even puts the steps up to the most exciting or the climax, the turning point of the story, and then what happens after, to the conflict and the resolution. Again, very detailed. You could sketch something simple like this out, or you could really just number your paper 1 to 20 and start writing down everything that happens. That kind of thinking, though, is important because I feel like when you don't think through your story first, you're stuck trying to create the story and create the techniques as you go, which is really hard. But if you get the story kind of mapped out and you know where it's headed, putting in the techniques will be a lot easier. And you'll be able to focus on them more, which will make them much stronger. So I wanted to give you some examples of some techniques I know some of you are going to try. This is from Home of the Brave. And I feel like this could have been a pre-planned sentence. It may not have been. Miss Applegate may have just, as she went, added this, but because we are not super experienced published authors, we're going to pre-plan some figurative language. For example, when we're reading this part, this is when something very simple happened early in the story. Keck, who comes from Africa, who's an immigrant, fell in the icy pathway of Minnesota. And it says, tears trace my cheeks like tiny knives. And I feel like, wow, that was a really good example because it probably really did hurt him. It upset him. Here he is, new to the United States. So this is something, if I were writing, I may stop and think about what would tears do? Trickle? I like the idea I said trace. I thought that was interesting. And then compared to what? Trace my cheeks like. And again, tiny knives. Interesting. The shape may work, but also the mood and the tone. He's really trying to say something here. It might even be, I don't know, this may be too much, but I wondered if maybe it was a little bit symbolic. Those who read the book know that Ganwar has gone through the ceremony where he has knife marks in his forehead that are representative of his tribe. I don't know if maybe that's why the knife marks or trace his cheeks like tiny knives, but I may be taking that too far. But again, I feel like the author could have really thought this ahead of time and dropped it in here to make it stronger. Here's another couple of examples. Just some really strong feeling, emotion, that, and even symbolic emotion. This is when Keck finds out they've been looking for his mom in Africa in the refugee camps, and they have not found her. And it says, something grabs my throat and tries to steal the air away. I feel like, wow, that's a really good emotion. It's not super sophisticated. The word grabs isn't like a huge word, but it makes a ton of sense. It just grabs your throat and steals the air away. think that's really strong. And again, you could write that before you even write the story and then plop a sentence like that in where it needs to go. Nearby, a crow flaps his great black wings. Again, not super huge, strong words, but I feel like it's very symbolic. Paints a strong mood and tone, makes it a little bit ominous, not just sad. And I feel like, again, if you pre-plan or pre-write some of these strong sentences, you're more likely to have them in your story. So let's take a look at just a couple minutes of a video about mood and tone. If you click here, there's a very long list. Here's an example, just a screenshot of some of them. They kind of break it down into positive and negative word choices. Let's take a listen.
Michael woke in a panic. It was completely dark. He was shivering. He could hear the waves crashing below. Tone, mood, atmosphere. All these things are vital to maintaining the reader's interest. If we were to imagine the plot structure as the story's framework and the characters as moving about the framework, then tone, mood, and setting will provide us with the substance, colour, and look of the narrative. Panic, dark, shivering, crashing. The serious tones of these words create an unsettling or ominous mood. Mood is sometimes referred to as the atmosphere. It is the dominant feeling of the story and provides the reader with an idea of what's to come. It might be surprising to hear that setting is one of the more controversial elements of the narrative. Why? The place or time a story is set in might be incidental to the drama that takes place. But consider the following. Michael jumped terrified from his bed and yelled down the hall for a servant to make him some supper. He went and told his mother about the nightmare, and she promised to buy him a new toy horse in the morning. Every setting comes with its own context. So too does every reader. Michael's affluence and social class would be interpreted differently by readers with different backgrounds and beliefs. Here's Michael's reaction in a changed setting. Michael opened the hut door and screamed into the cold air for the forest gods to save him. He quickly jumped onto his horse and rode as far away from his nightmare as possible.
So I gathered a couple things from that. I think it's important. He made the point that if you kind of know the plot and have that plotted out, kind of the mood and the tone and the setting, there's a really good spot for your characters to move around in, but you have to have the story down first. So it kind of reiterated what I had said. I also thought it was interesting. He had a character in two different settings, and kind of how that had a different mood and tone and shape to it. And his word choices made a difference with that as well. So I want to show you a couple pictures. I decided I was going to write about a picnic, and I literally just Googled picnic pictures. I could have looked for puppy and baby pictures. I could have looked for just a funny conflict. I could have looked for roller coaster. But one technique that we're going to try tomorrow is using pictures to do some writing. And when I looked at these two pictures, I thought these are pretty happy picnickers wearing all white. Who does that to a picnic? These two are wearing hats, pretty bright colored red watermelon in these big hunks. Wasn't very realistic. And I thought, I don't know that I want to write this kind of a picnic. I would much prefer a picnic that might have some conflict, some grit to it a little bit. I may choose to write about a picnic that gets rained out. And I literally Googled pictures of conflicts with picnics. I could write about how things got ruined by the bugs or the ants that came crawling into the picnic. That's kind of cliche. And then I thought about a time when I was hiking in Colorado with our friends, and a black bear didn't come to our picnic, but was pretty close and it was a little bit scary. So I decided my picnic scene would have a little bit more of a scary mood or tone than it would this very, very happy one. So what I'm going to show you is how I might do some pre-writing that would help make sure that I had strong mood and tone, and also, have some figurative language for my story. And I might start out by planning the beginning, middle, and end of this. I could think about who my characters would be. Might be my family, myself, my kids, my husband. I might add some quirky characters just for fun. Maybe the grandparents who always do silly things, so that might help. I might think about what the lesson or the theme would be. Maybe always be prepared or watch your back or something along those lines. I'm trying to think how this problem would be solved. One thing I know about bears is you don't want to take off running because then you're prey. You want to sit very still. So maybe we just sat very still and watched this bear come up and eat our food and then saunter away. So I kind of like that. So now that I have kind of the basis of the story, I might want to start with just like some setting, mood, and tone words. And thinking about what this might look like. I could just write some words like maybe perfect blue sky, white fluffy clouds, a little cliche, but I'll add a cool breeze and warm sun. And I might even look up some nice setting words that create that mood and tone. I could just Google some of those. And see what comes up. Or I could use my thesaurus. Pleasant, satisfying, lovely. And sometimes you get some really cheesy words, but look how it just comes up with a list of words to describe places. And I could look at this list and find ones that are very specific. Attractive sounds kind of strange. It's more people. Calm, peaceful. That's kind of nice. Homey, no, lively, peaceful, picturesque. That's really nice. So again, don't be afraid to use your resources in order to help you with this work. So let's go back. I could add some from that list. Let's move on to, let's go to the conflict. I feel like I need some really strong words there. Maybe just how we reacted, startled. Let me look up here to some of those strong mood and tone words. Ooh, the bear could be aggravated. I don't want to. I don't want a gross story, so I think I'll just go with how we were feeling. I'm going to use the word sauntered because I used that before and I liked it. So we were startled and scared. Bear, slow, saunter. It's kind of a slow movement back and forth. I'm going to go over here. I may come back, add some more mood and tone because I feel like that's really not enough for me to start writing and have a good story. But maybe once I have some figurative language, I can come back and add some good words here. So with my figurative language, I want some similes and metaphors. And I want to think about maybe the characters' reactions, but also maybe the bear part. So let's start with the bear since we just finished with him. The bear waddled or sauntered closer and closer. We froze. Now, I think I want a simile or metaphor here. Like we stood really still because I know that's what you should do with bears. I'm trying to think of a good mood and tone word. So I'm literally just going to Google things that are frozen. And I may not come up with anything good here, but I might. Let's just see. Butter, cheese, cottage cheese. Yeah, those aren't so good. Let's see here. Oh, those are interesting. I don't think I want to go with anything like Frozen because that's super cheesy. And my story's not a funny story. So maybe looking at, yeah, I don't want Olaf. Moontone, there's a popsicle. That's a little cheesy. I'm going to go with us. Oh, here we go. I think I'm going to maybe use something along those lines. Like we froze. Like a stranded car in an unexpected ice storm. That might not be too bad. I might revise if I come up with something better, but I feel like it's serious and definitely lets you know how frozen we were. I might want to describe the emotions of the main character. I was so startled. My heart skipped a beat. And I want to exaggerate because this would be a really scary moment. And then raced out of my chest, pounding ahead of me. I don't know, a little dramatic, but maybe I can make that work. It's really hard when you're nervous not to say my heart pounded like a bass drum. I say that a lot, but then again, that becomes cliche. So I think you get the idea of what I'm doing here. Just trying to come up with some words and phrases and figurative language, because if my two techniques would be to focus on figurative language and mood and tone, I'm doing some of that pre-writing that can make my own writing stronger. You can pick whichever one technique you want to use, but again, do some pre-planning. You could write this above your story just to see your brainstorming and your thinking. Okay, lastly, let's see how this would come together. So here's a picnic scene. I did not write this. Jerry Spinelli wrote it from the book Wonder Ringer. You may have read this. It's about a boy who has to help out in a sporting event in their town where they're pigeon shooting. And in this scene, a pigeon's been shot and it falls into the picnic area where people are celebrating, and the bird falls right into a pink fringe stroller. And so here's where all that action occurs, and really good word choice. Short and long sentences and figurative language. So all that in one paragraph. By the time Arthur got there, the pigeon was on the ground and being chased around the picnic tables by half a dozen squealing toddlers. Arthur joined the chase. The bird flapped up onto a table. People screamed. Hot dogs flew. Arthur lunged across the table, knocking drinks, smashing pickled eggs, and snatched the pigeon by the legs and a bowl of chicken salad. According to the story, Arthur threw his arms into the air like a boxing champion and crowed, "Got me one!" And then the story continues. So notice how it's very simple, but long sentences with words like squealing, flapped, screamed, lunged, knocking, smashing, snatched. So some strong action words. I notice here's some figurative language. He threw his arms up into the air like a boxing champion. Again, boxer kind of fits the scene pretty well as to what he's doing. Short, choppy sentences. People screamed, hot dogs flew, and then a really long sentence. This author nailed it. Great variety of techniques here. And again, I just want you to focus on one, but I think some pre-planning will make your writing even stronger. Good luck, guys. Happy writing. Don't forget, you're writing a new story, trying to really focus on the techniques you learned from your book club book. Good luck. Can't wait to read them.